I am a real estate agent, and I have been for 12 years. I have walked through hundreds of properties, many of them empty for months or years. Most abandoned houses have a logical explanation for why they were left. Foreclosure, estate disputes, owners who moved and couldn't sell, normal things. The house on Ellendale Road did not have a logical explanation, at least not one that was ever shared with me. I was asked to assess the property for a potential sale. The listing agent who called me said the estate had been tied up in probate for 11 years and the family was finally ready to move forward. I drove out on a Tuesday morning. The house was set back from the road, a long gravel driveway through overgrown hedges. 2 stories, colonial style. It would have been beautiful once. The estate attorney met me there and let me in with a key. He was in a hurry and left almost immediately, which I thought was strange. I did my walkthrough alone. The house was furnished, which is common in long vacant estate properties. Sheets draped over the furniture, curtains drawn. Everything was normal until I got to the master bedroom on the 2nd floor. The door was locked from the inside. I assumed it had jammed or swollen shut. I pushed on it a few times, and then I noticed the gap at the bottom of the door. Light was coming through the gap, not sunlight. The curtains in every room were drawn, and the house was dark inside. This was a warm, yellowish light, like a lamp. I knocked. I identified myself. No response. I called the estate attorney. He said the house had been empty and no one had access besides himself. He sounded annoyed, not alarmed, which I found strange. I waited in the hallway for 20 minutes. The light under the door stayed on the entire time. I decided I was not going to open that door. I went back downstairs, walked outside, and sat in my car. About 10 minutes later, I watched a 2nd floor window curtain move. Something behind it shifted and then went still. I called the non-emergency police line and explained the situation. 2 officers came out about 40 minutes later. They went through the house. They told me the master bedroom door had opened easily, no lock engaged, no one inside, no lamp or light source of any kind in the room. I don't have an explanation for what I saw under that door. The officers seemed to think I imagined it or that sunlight had been playing tricks through a gap in the curtains, but I was not standing near any windows, and it was not sunlight. I know what sunlight looks like. I declined the listing. I have never been back to that street.
I need to start by saying I am not someone who believes in anything unexplainable. I am an engineer. I look for rational causes. What I'm about to tell you, I have looked for a rational cause for years, and I haven't found one. About 6 years ago, I bought a house at auction, foreclosure property, below market value, needed work. I had flipped 2 properties before, so I wasn't intimidated by the condition. The house had been vacant for 4 years. Before that, a single man in his 50s had lived alone in it. The neighbors told me he moved out suddenly, left most of his belongings. They didn't know where he went. I started the renovation in the living room and kitchen. Standard work. Walls, floors, fixtures. The first week went normally. In the second week, I was pulling up old carpet in the hallway when I found the marks. Under the carpet, the hardwood floor was covered in writing. Not random graffiti, dense, careful handwriting in black marker. The same sentence written over and over, hundreds of times, covering almost every inch of floor under the carpet. The sentence was, "He is still in the walls." I photographed everything. I told myself the previous owner had been mentally ill. That was the rational explanation. A troubled man writing on his floors and then abandoning the house. I sanded the floors and moved on. 3 weeks into the renovation, I was working alone in the house one afternoon when I heard it. A sound from inside the walls. Not pipes, not the building settling. Something rhythmic. Something that sounded exactly like breathing. I pressed my ear to the drywall. It stopped. I stepped back. After about 30 seconds, it started again. I told myself it was an animal, rodents in the wall cavity. That is possible. That is the rational explanation. I cut open a section of drywall in that area to check for structural damage and pest issues. The cavity behind it was empty, clean. No evidence of animals, no nesting material, nothing. The sound didn't come back after that. I finished the renovation and sold the house. It sold quickly and above asking. I didn't tell the buyer about the writing under the carpet. I had sanded it away. I told myself it wasn't relevant, but I kept the photographs. I have looked at them many times. He is still in the walls. I don't know who wrote it. I don't know who he was. I don't know if the man who abandoned that house was afraid of something real or something only he could perceive. What I know is that I heard something in those walls, and whatever it was, it heard me listening.
This is the only story I have ever told publicly, and I'm still not sure I should be telling it. When I was in college, I had a part-time job with a property management company. My job was to do welfare checks and property assessments on vacant units. Simple work. One assignment took me to an old house that the company managed on behalf of an out-of-state owner. It had been vacant for 8 months. The previous tenants had broken their lease and left without notice. My job was to document the condition of the property and report back. Standard stuff. I arrived around noon on a weekday, unlocked the front door, and stepped inside. The house had that specific silence that empty houses have. It doesn't sound like silence in an occupied room. It has a quality to it, a weight. You notice it immediately. I went room by room, taking photos on my phone for the report. Living room, dining room, kitchen. All empty, all in reasonable condition. The tenants had left some trash, but nothing serious. I went upstairs. 2 bedrooms, a bathroom. All empty. And then I noticed the closet in the second bedroom was closed. This sounds like nothing, a closed closet in an empty house, but something about it made me stop. Every other interior door in the house was open. This one was closed, and it was closed from the inside. The little button lock in the center of the knob was pushed in. I stood in front of it for a long time. I knocked. Nothing. I called out and identified myself. Nothing. I unlocked it with a coin and pulled it open. The closet was empty, completely empty. Bare rod, bare shelves, bare floor. Except for a phone, a smartphone, face down on the floor in the center of the closet. And when I picked it up, the screen lit up. Battery still had charge. I turned it over. The screen showed a text message thread, open. The last message in the thread was sent 8 months ago, around the time the tenants disappeared. The message said, "Don't open the closet." I put the phone down and left the house. I drove straight back to the office and told my supervisor. I said I wasn't comfortable completing the assessment alone. He sent someone else. They finished the report. I asked what they found. They said the house was normal. I asked about the phone in the closet. They said there was no phone in the closet. I showed them my photos from the assessment. The photo I took of the phone showed an empty closet floor, but I took that photo while holding the phone in my other hand. My supervisor suggested I had been under stress and maybe confused the property with a different address. I quit 2 weeks later. I have never been able to explain what I saw. I have never been able to explain why my photo shows nothing. I don't talk about it because there is no version of this story that doesn't make me sound like I imagined it. But I held that phone. I read those words. And whoever sent that message knew something was in that house long before I ever unlocked the door.